Hello teachers, today I am going to show you how to tab your Henley first year Latin book. So I'm sure many of you do classical conversations, and I just have to tell you right off the bat, I recorded this video 6 months ago and I just spent the last week editing it, and I put about 7 hours into editing it, and this morning I woke up ready to load it onto YouTube and my video had been deleted. So instead of crying over the catastrophe that was, oh my gosh, it was such a nightmare. I have decided that God did this on purpose, because the whole time I was editing that video, I kept thinking, you know what? I have some better ideas. I think I could re-tab my book and actually make it better and make it more succinct with some of the vocab charts that I'm going to tell you about. And so I've actually redone my entire tabbing system, and that's what I'm going to show you today. Is I'm going to show you my new tabs that I'm putting in my book and where I'm putting them in. I've color-coded them to match with the vocab charts, and so I'm hoping that's going to make it much more clear and make the connections in the student's head between their copy charts and the Henley Latin book. So if we haven't met before, hi, my name is Lynn, and I'm a homeschooling mom. I have 4 kids and I've been teaching them for 10 years now. We use a classical approach to our homeschool, and we've been using My Father's World and Classical Conversations as our curriculums. It's my goal to help homeschooling become easy for you too. So I'm taking all the tips and tricks that I have learned over the last 10 years and putting them here for you to see. Okay, so let's dive in here. We're going to be tabbing our Henley Latin first year book, and this is the book they're going to go through in Classical Conversations actually for 3 years. So this will be A, B, and Challenge 1. I'm just using these Post-it note tabs. I'm using all 6 of the colors, and actually let me grab this. I'm also using the purple, so you can just grab these at Staples or Office Depot. I'm using several of each one, so you're probably going to want a full pack. And so you can kind of see I've laid out my new tabs here that I'm going to be putting into my book, and we're just going to tab this together. And I'm going to show you the easiest way to get these tabs to line up and be spaced out properly. But before I jump into that, I want to just take a moment to walk through the organization of this book with you and some of the copy charts. I'm sure your teacher has given you, I'll take this out of the sticky, some sort of a copy chart for your students to use in their memorization of the Latin endings. And so this is the noun declensions chart that we use in our community, and I will link this below in the video. I've been directing, this is my 3rd year directing Challenge B now, and I've used several different charts, but this one is by far my favorite. And I really like the color coding that they do here. So I just want to mention that because I have gone through and color coded our noun lessons in the same colors as the chart. And that was an idea I had when my last video, when I was editing it and then it failed. And I thought, you know what, I just need to take this moment. I think this is a sign from God just to start fresh and do it right the first, well, it's the second time for me, but do it right the first time for you guys. Because I think this will be even more helpful as they kind of see the coordination here between the two. One of my students is dyslexic, and I just know how big of an impact using colors can be in helping make those brain to memory connections. So your book is going to cover your parts of speech in this order. You're going to cover nouns, and then you're going to cover adjectives, and then you're going to do that like in the first 7 lessons, and then you're going to spend the entire rest of the book covering verbs and a whole bunch of little things that you won't run into very often. But that's how you get the whole language learned. So we start from the easiest, move on to the harder, and then cover all the minute things towards the end. So your first 5 lessons are nouns, and these have a D behind them because the nouns in Latin are divided into 5 declensions, and a declension is how you add endings to the stem of your noun. So I have 1 D for first declension, second declension, third declension, 4th declension, and 5th declension. And that covers all the nouns. And so you can see here, they've got all their endings. That other side was for the students to practice memorizing, copying the work. So here's all the endings and all the different colors. And so you can see how each lesson coordinates to this chart. And then they're going to go into adjectives. We only have 2 sets of adjectives. They use the endings from the first and second declension. So I put adjectives, first and second declension, and I put it in purple to match the first. So you're using the exact same endings between these 3 for your first and second declension adjectives. And then third declension adjectives, you're using all 3 of these endings, okay? So you're just using these same endings that go onto your stem for both nouns and adjectives. Those are not too super complicated, and so the students will be able to pick that up, and you'll love that. However, then we get into verbs, and while I can fit all the possible ways you can decline a noun on 1 page, I need 5 charts for verbs, okay? There is so much information here. So let me just walk through this. First of all, I just want to say big shout out to Ben Crowder. I don't know who he is, but I found his website and he created these verb charts and they are amazing. Nothing else have I found anywhere even compares to how well organized and clear and concise this is. It has all the information on it. Sometimes when you're going through the book, it feels like there are an infinite possible amount of ways that you can conjugate a verb, but I'm here to tell you there's 4 conjugations in verbs, and this is it. I know this is a lot of options, but at least it's not infinite, right, guys? Like these are all the ways that you can conjugate them. So what he's done with his charts is he's put each conjugation on a different page, and this is a blank worksheet so that you can practice copying these. Just put that in a sheet protector, and you can use a dry erase marker to copy these over and practice them. So set that aside. So we've got 4th conjugation, 3rd conjugation, I stems, which is just a variation of 3rd conjugation. In Latin, every time you get to a 3rd, it's extra complicated. So we have 2 pages for the 3rd conjugation, and then we have 2nd conjugation and 1st. You can see each page is laid out the same, okay? And so we're going to go through each of these pages and show you where it's covered in the book. The cool thing is he laid these charts out so that we have them on here in the same order that Henley's covering them in the book. So we're just going to kind of work our way across each of these rows and then hit some of these on the side, and you will have all of this information covered by the time you finish this book, which won't be till the end of challenge 1, but that's just great. Okay, so we covered our nouns, we covered our adjectives. Next, we're jumping into our verbs. So the first thing I want to show you, though, I'm going to make some notes on here for you, is Latin verbs are divided into 2 systems. So if I draw a line right down the middle here, everything on this side is the present system, and everything on this side is the perfect system, okay? So when they refer to the present system or the perfect system, they're referring to all of the conjugations inside of those systems. So in the present system, you have present, imperfect, and future, and that's present, past, and future. And then the perfect, you have perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect, and they're all different forms of past tense going on, past tense, that future that you're referring to in the past tense. And so it's a little bit more complicated, but perfect is always kind of a form of wishing it hasn't really happened, or past tense. And so they'll dive into all of that in the book. But this is your present system, this is your perfect system, and it goes through all the conjugations. Now remember, for nouns, you only have 1 stem for each word. For verbs, you actually have 4 stems, okay, right here. I'm going to divide this in half. The first 2 stems are for the present system. The last 2 stems are for the perfect system. So that's how we're going to use those. And honestly, in the present system, this is the only stem you're going to use. This word right here is actually just first person singular, present, indicative, active. I don't know why we consider that. I don't know why that's considered part of the stems. I'm not that smart apparently, but that is all that is. This is the stem. You take the A-R-E off because it's bolded and use the A-M for the stem. So every second, these are called your principal parts. Every second principal part is going to end in an A-R-E or an E-R-E. So like for second conjugation, instead of A-R-E, it's E-R-E. That's still the same concept. You take that E-R-E off. And then third conjugation, it is E-R-E with no macron. And then 4th conjugation, it's I-R-E. So you just take off those last 3 letters, and that's how you get your stem. And then in the perfect system, both of these stems are used for various cases. And so when you're looking at these charts, the black is the stem. So I can always match this up. Like here, the stem is A-M-A-V. A-M-A-V, that's right here with no I because the I is bold. So we took that off. So that's our 3rd principal part. Versus this is A-M-A-T. Okay, that matches up to our 4th principal part. So you're going to be using, so this is your active stem, and we use it in both of our active tenses, and this is your passive stem, and you use it in both of your passive tenses, okay? And then over here, they kind of pick which ones, each portion tells you which one it uses. So that's kind of how the stems are broken down. So now let's jump into how this goes through the book. So we're going to start with our present active indicative, which is right here. Present stem, active indicative. Okay, so we are going to start when we learn our verbs with this active indicative section right here. Present active indicative, and you're going to learn 1C means first conjugation. So you're going to learn first conjugation. Then in the next lesson, you're going to learn second conjugation, present active indicative. And then the next one, you're going to learn third conjugation, present active indicative. Now, third conjugation I stems, I'm just going to set it aside. We're not going to cover those at all until we get closer to the end of the book. Then you're going to do 4th conjugation, present active indicative. Then you're going to have one chapter that's going to cover the perfect stem, active indicative, all 4 conjugations. So it's first conjugation through fourth. So in this last lesson, you're going to cover the perfect and how to conjugate it in all 4 of the conjugations at the same time. So they start you slow and then they kind of speed you up on the amount of information. Plus, you're not going to be using the perfect system as much as you'll be using the present. So it doesn't seem like a wise use of time to cover it as long. Then they're going to take a little break. We're going to talk about questions. We're going to talk about personal pronouns. I like to abbreviate all my tabs as much as possible because the more words on the tab, the more my eyes kind of gloss over, and I'm not going to sit down and read it thoroughly anyway. So if I can have short little abbreviations, I always try to do that. Now for the verbs, there's just so much information and too many repetitive letters. I had to write it out. So then we're going to come back to verbs and we're going to do the present passive indicative, and we're going to go through each conjugation one at a time. So present passive indicative, we're going to spend a lesson studying that, and then a lesson studying it in the second conjugation, and then a lesson studying it in the third conjugation, then a lesson studying the present passive indicative in the fourth conjugation. Then we're going to take one lesson and we're going to learn all the perfect passive indicative at the same time for all 4 conjugations. So we're first conjugation through fourth conjugation. We're going to learn these all at the same time. So in one lesson, we're going to cover all 4 conjugations in the perfect tense again. Okay. So now we've got the first 2 columns memorized, hopefully, and use your copy chart. Have your student copy with the sections that he's working on that week. Have them copy that every single day. It'll make a huge difference, just like your essentials memory work did. And so we've covered the first 2 lines. These are the tenses you're going to be using the most often, okay? When we speak in English, we most often speak in the indicative. So remember when you did your essentials chart, you had the indicative tense, the indicative mood, the subjunctive mood, and the imperative mood. So in Latin, the indicative and subjunctive are very, very big. The imperative is small. And these are your verbals, your 3 verbals that you learned at the very end of essentials. So we're going to touch on those at the end. But these are the tenses that we use the most in English and in Latin. So we've covered all those. Now, and notice I did these tabs red because the endings are red. So the black is the stem and the endings are red. So I did these tabs red so that it matches on the chart. Now we're going to move into the subjunctive, and the subjunctive has blue endings. So I've switched to blue tabs to help it match. So we are going to learn the present, active, subjunctive, first conjugation through fourth conjugation all at the same time. And this is not going to be the whole present system. This is just this one present tense right here. So we're going to learn that in all 4 conjugations at the same time. There we go. So we're going to cover that. And then we're going to cover the imperfect active subjunctive, which is right next to it, in all 4 systems in the same lesson. So we'll cover all 4 of these, and you'll be learning 4 sets of endings because each conjugation is going to have its own unique ending, okay? Then we're going to study the perfect active subjunctive, all 4 conjugations at the same time. Notice how we're kind of speeding up. We're going to do both of these, perfect and pluperfect, at the same time. So in 1 week, we'll learn all of the perfect system active subjunctive for all 4 tenses. At this point, you've learned the conjugations, you've learned enough about verbs, you understand the pattern, so you can afford to go faster. You will understand it quickly. Then we're going to learn the imperative verbs for all 4 conjugations. So we're going to jump over here and we're going to look at the imperative, and we're going to study all of those in one lesson. And so we'll mark that in our book because we'll want to reference that. And then we're going to do the passive subjunctive in all 4 conjugations, first conjugation through fourth conjugation. And this time we're making a big jump. This is the entire present and perfect system passive subjunctive. So we're learning this entire bottom row at the same time in all 4 conjugations, okay? So you can see we're learning a lot more information at once now. But look, at this point, we've almost covered everything you need to know about verbs. So we're going to take a couple other things. We're going to do the participle verbs, all 4 conjugations, and these are right here. So we're going to learn the participle verbs in all 4 conjugations right here. That's all in one lesson. Okay. And then we're going to take a little break from verbs. We're going to talk about some prepositions, some numerals, and then we're going to come back. And in one lesson, we are going to talk about what verbs belong to this I-STEM category, and we're going to cover everything on this entire page in one lesson. Don't worry about it, though. You've already learned how to use most of these types of verbs because you've studied the same thing in other conjugations. We just have to talk about the verbs that belong in third I-STEM. Okay, then we're going to do infinitive verbs. in all 4 conjugations. And this one, the letters are green, so I put it in a green tab. So this is up here at the top, infinitive, and we're going to do this for all 4 conjugations. 3 and 4. We're almost done here. We're going to do some more adjectives. We're going to do deponent, passive verbs, and which are just kind of an exception. And then we're going to talk about EO verbs, which are exceptions. Okay. At that point, we've covered all the chapters in the book. All right. So this last row of tabs are just some dictionaries, some vocab reviews that I place up at the top of my book for special reference. But I just want you to see we are working through this chart in an orderly fashion, and each one of these. So by the end of challenge 1, and most of this you will cover, everything on the left side you will cover by the end of challenge B, okay? And then the rest of this for sure by the end of challenge 1, you're gonna have all of this understood in a simple manner. So let's just hop over here, and I am going to start throwing these tabs in here. So what I did was I kind of highlighted in the front index where each of these tabs belong, just to kind of make it easy for me to pick out. So I'm going to start, here's the best way to tab. Start at the back of the book. So I'm going to start at the very end with the English to Latin vocabulary on page 499. And I'm going to do this all the way out here on the right side, okay? Then we're going to do the Latin to English on page 489. So right here. And now when I start from the back, I can see exactly where my tabs are, and I can line it up how I want it to be instead of trying to guess where the next tab needs to go. Master Vocabulary Review, units 6 through 14. I can place that on here next. There we go. And then the next one is Vocabulary Review, units 3 through 5. So that's going to be back over here, page 217. Let me flip over here. Okay, here's this one. And these vocab reviews are really helpful to you parents for when your students are needing to kind of be tested over their vocab. You can just turn to one of these pages and start calling out words, and it has the English and the Latin. And then Mastery Vocab, page 91 for units 1 and 2. So page 91, and then we'll put this up here. Slide that in there correctly. See how nice and easy it is to come from this side where I can see everything behind me and I can lay the tabs out exactly how I want them to look. All right, then we have a couple of special things here. Jesus Christ and some have special declensions, like they don't fit into any other patterns, so you have to memorize them. So I like to tab these 2 pages because you're going to use that a lot. So page 151, I'm going to flip back over here. I'm going to put in some. I'm going to do this out of the far edge here. And then page 87 is Jesus Christ. And I'm going to do this just to the side. Okay, so I've got those at the top of my book, all tabbed, and I am ready to start with all of our lessons here. So let me go back here. I'm going to start at the back again so that I can line up my tabs evenly the way I want them. All right, so our EO verbs are on page 457. And I'm going to start this down at the bottom. I'm hoping I can get each of these in 3 rows. So bear with me. Let's see if this works. I'm going to put this all the way down at the bottom to see if I can get enough space. The next one is the deponent verbs, 445. There we go. And I'm just going to line this one up. I don't really want them to fully overlap because I kind of want to be able to see what they say, but I'm going to place them close together. And then we have adjectives, 434, right here. And I can line that one up nice and tight. And then the infinitive, 412. Okay. Oops, sorry, shaking the camera there. All right. See how nicely I can line these up so that they're all evenly spaced? Okay, I-stem, go back here. That's page 381. Something else I will say too while I'm doing this, I had already put tabs in my book I had used different colors. I had used a lot of pinks and blues, and I highlighted in here the same color that my original tabs were. I can't go back and change it now, but if I were you and you want to highlight the index as well, so you know where you're going, I would highlight the index the same color as the tabs that I'm putting in so that it's all congruent. Okay, next is numerals, page 370. And right in here, put that. And then the next one is prepositions, page 336. I know this sounds silly, but I just love organization. I hope some of you enjoy getting to see this, and I hope it's helpful to you, because I certainly love a well-organized book. Participle, 325. Okay, and I am running out of space here. So this one, I'm gonna have to move up to the other page, and that's just fine. Okay. Next is the passive subjunctive, page 314. And I'm going to start overlapping some of these because they're going to have the same names. So I'm going to put these a little bit tighter together. Imperative verbs, 293. Keep those close. And then perfect active subjunctive, 280. These are the ones I'm going to start overlapping a little bit more because they're all the active subjunctive. So I'm going to leave a little break here to recognize that these are going to be a category. All right. And then the imperfect active subjunctive. Yes, that's right. 235. I was afraid I skipped some pages because it was a big jump there. But we had some chapters in between that I didn't feel like were worthy of a tab. Okay. 235. And now I'm going to overlap this so that you can just see the conjugation, 1C through 4C. And then the next one is the present, 225. And I'm going to overlap this one as well so that you can just see the numbers. And then this will remind me that all three of these that are touching are really a part of the same verb system. And so they belong together, kind of like a little family. Okay, so that wraps up everything in the subjunctive, and now we're going to move into our red tense. We're going to go back up into the indicative, and so I've got red stickers here, and these are all the passive indicative tenses. So I'm going to group all of those together in the next section, and so we're going to start on page 208 is the perfect, which is the perfect for all four of the conjugations. All right, so I'm going to leave a little space here to show this is a new grouping, and then I'm going to overlap these. And then the fourth conjugation is 202. There we go. And I'm just going to overlap these again so that you can just see the conjugation numbers here. And then third conjugation is 197. There we go. And then second conjugation is 192. And then first conjugation is 179. And that's going to be all of the passive indicative. Okay. Excellent. Yes, I'm liking these grouped together a lot to kind of show like little breaks in the sections. All right. My next one is personal pronouns. I'm not sure I have enough space. I can probably do one on there. Oh, that's right. Okay, so I'm going to do something a little bit different here. Yes, the personal pronouns and the questions are going to kind of jump out of order. I want those side by side. They kind of fall in between these verb cases here, but I want them to be side by side in the book. We'll just start a new row down at the bottom. So personal pronouns is page 125. And then we'll have to skip around just a little bit. All right, so I'll start this here. And then, oh, let me get that on. Nope, still crooked. Try again. There we go. Okay, and then questions are page 114. I'm going to overlap these. Okay, these two are in the way. However, I'm going to move this up to the top here and up to the top here. They're just going to kind of overlap a little bit, but I think that's going to work. And then I'm going to do my verbs here. So perfect active indicative, that's passive. The perfect system active, 155. So present active indicative fourth is 147. So I'm going to overlap these again so you can just see the conjugation numbers. And then third conjugation active is 140. Okay. All right, second conjugation Yes, Monillo is page 120. And then first conjugation is page 99. Yeah, I don't like how these yellow ones are covering them. I gotta think through what I want to do with that. Okay. Let's see. Adjectives of the third declension is page 82. All right, I'm gonna leave a little space above here, so the adjectives are its separate category. Adjectives of the first declension is 72. And so I'm going to overlap these halfway also, so you can see the declensions. And then, all right, going back to the first unit, fifth declension, nouns, page 62. And I'm going to leave a space between the adjectives and the nouns, and I'm going to stack these up here. Fourth declension is 56. And get these pages lined out evenly. There we go. Third declension is 35. And second declension is 17. There we go. And first declension is page 6, way back in the very first lesson. Yes, I'm really liking these colors on here a lot. I think that's fantastic. Okay, awesome. So we've got all of our nouns here, our adjectives, our verbs, and then verbs and some other random stuff. And then up at the top of the book, we have our vocab reviews, our dictionaries, and our 2 noun declensions that you have to memorize. Awesome. I hope this is helpful, you guys. Well, congratulations. You made it to the end of the video. Way to stick with it. Would you just pop a heart emoji in the comments so that I know you watched the whole video? Thank you so much. Be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you can see more homeschooling hacks on my channel. And finally, if you liked this video on how to tab your first year Henley Latin book, you should watch this video about how to tab your Challenge B guide. And remember, you are enough just the way you are.